Good day, Murphians. Our topic ngayong araw na to would be ESET 6. We have coverage natin is wave propagation. So this is Engineer Randy Aliado from Morph Cebu. Okay, these are our subtopics ngayong araw na to. We have electromagnetic waves. We will be discussing optical properties of electromagnetic waves. Then we'll be dealing with the wave propagation, the ground, the sky, and the space. Then we will talk about the fading and lastly the diversity. Okay, let's begin with the difference. Let's differentiate the electricity parameters with the electromag parameters. Now, ito yung parang kakailangan nating ma-relate para mas madali yung pagkaintindi natin sa mga parameters ng electromagnetic waves. So, halimbawa sa electricity, alam natin yung apat na to, no? So, we have the voltage, we have the current, the resistance, and the power together with their units, no? The volt, the ampere, the ohms, and the watts. Now, sa electromagnetic wave, parang meron silang kahalintulad lang, no? O representation. No? So, si voltage, pwede nating i-relate kay electric field intensity, then si current kay magnetic field intensity, then si impedance kay resistance, and si power is gawin nating power density dito. In which magbabago na yung units natin kasi dito sa electricity, volt lang siya. Pagdating ng electric field intensity, magiging volt per meter na siya. So dito ampere per meter, dito ohms pa rin, and dito is watts per meter square na. So ito na yung ating mga units, no? So from volt naging volt per meter na. It is already an intensity or strength. So it's per length or per distance. Then we have ampere per meter. Then we have watts per meter squared kasi nga volt per meter times ampere per meter, that becomes watts per meter square, known as your power density. Then our impedance would be a constant value because this is talking about free space. So the free space impedance natin is 377 ohms. So yun yung pag-uusapan natin ngayon, no? Yung 377 ohms na yan. So that's the free space impedance. So it is related to the electric and magnetic field intensities of an electromagnetic wave in free space. Now alam natin na merong Henry per meter yung free space. Meron din siyang Farad per meter na parameter, no? And we know that the Henry per meter of free space is yung tinatawag na mu, and yung Farad per meter is yung tinatawag na EO, or permittivity of free space and permeability of free space. So if ito yung Henry per meter saka Farad per meter, and alam natin that characteristic impedance is equal to L over C, or inductance per meter at saka capacitance per meter, then pwede pala nating sabihin na the characteristic impedance of free space is equal to the Henry per meter or inductance per meter of free space divided by the Farad per meter or capacitance per meter ng free space, in which you can do this, you can actually get this using your calculator. So using your calculator, this would be constant 33 divided by constant 32, tapos kunan natin ang square root, it will give us a value na malapit sa 377. So if you will get your calculator, shift constant 33, divide natin sa shift constant 32, tapos kunan natin ang square root, lalabas dyan is 376.73. 376.73 ohms. Rounded up natin sa 377 ohms. So kaya nga ito na yung gagamitin natin na constant or standard as the free space impedance. Okay, so from the free space impedance and the parameters natin na electric field strength, magnetic field strength, and the power density, mas ma-appreciate natin yung lahat if magsisimula tayo sa pinaka original na source ng rays natin or energy. And we'll consider in our discussion the isotropic point source. So ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng isotropic point source? So pag sinabi mong isotropic, it means it's in all directions. So it is actually a hypothetical point in space that radiates electromagnetic radiation equally in all directions, sa lahat ng direksyon. It can also be referred as the isotropic radiator. So for example, I have here a point source, and this will radiate equally in all direction. So pwede akong guguhit ng tinatawag nating ray. So a ray is actually a line lang, isang linya lang siya that represents the direction of the wave propagation. So for example, guguhit tayo ng isang linya na ganyan. So that could be referred as a ray. But because nga this is an isotropic radiator, hindi lang isa yung ray niya, kundi napakadami and that would be infinite in all directions. So in all directions. So kaya nga, if iisipin natin na itong particular point na to will radiate a ray with the same length, magkatulad lang yung haba niya, no? Like yung radius niya, kumbaga, magkatulad lang yung haba ng rays na yan in all direction, then it actually creates somehow parang surface, no? Parang surface na mga dulo ng mga arrows na yun, no? And the shape of that particular surface is spherical, no? Kasi nga equal lahat ng distance galing sa point source natin. So yung surface na yan na mabubuo dahil sa mga dulo, no, ng mga napakadaming mga rays na ginuhit natin halimbawa, can be referred now as the wavefront. So it is a surface joining all points of equal phase, just like this, no? So ito na yung spherical wavefront na nabuo natin. It is made of so many rays, no, that are projected palabas ito sa ating point source in all directions, sa lahat ng direction with the same length. So with that, it could create really what we term as a spherical wavefront. So yan, spherical wavefront. So from this spherical wavefront concept, mas maintindihan natin yung mga power density, yung electric field strength, at saka yung magnetic field strength. Okay, so let's talk about power density. Now, power density is different from power because power nga is watts lang, no? But power density, from the word density, it's per area. So that would be per meter square. So it is still the rate at which energy flows. That is still power, no? Pag sinabi mo rate at which energy flows or energy is dissipated, energy is consumed, so that is still power. Pero this is now power per unit area of the surface in space. So kaya nga, if iisipin natin uli yung point source, tapos meron tayong mga rays na lalabas sa kanya in all direction, considering a certain distance, makakabuo tayo ng mga rays na nagsispread habang papalayo sila sa source. So yun na yung tinatawag nating rays na nag-spread. And if we will take halimbawa, no, we will take a certain area at a certain distance from that point source, like distance x, no, considering this smaller radius inside this bigger radius. If we will get an area here, we will see that there are 3 rays within that area. So we could say now that the power here is per area. So we have 3 rays per area. With that the same area sampled at this radius here na pinakamalaki na sa ating drawing, we can only see here na meron lang isang 1 ray of power per area. So dito meron tayong 3 rays of power per area. Habang lumalayo yung ating distance from this point papunta sa point na yan, lumiliit yung number of rays per area dahil nga nagsispread siya. So that tells us na yung power dito sa point source na to, if ever lang this is a free space, wala talagang magbabago sa power. Pero habang lumalayo ka sa source, nadi-decrease pa rin yung strength mo, not because nabawasan yung power mo, but because nag-decrease yung power density mo. So yun yung ibig sabihin ng power density, yung power per area. Ang makikita natin dito nga sa ating example na meron pa tayong 3 rays dito per that area. Pagdating dito, isa na lang yung ray sa area na yan. So that really gives us the visualization ng pagbaba ng power density natin. So kaya nga if isusolve natin yung power density, pwede nating sabihin na it's just the power radiated by this point source divided by the whole area ng ating sphere, which is 4 pi r squared. But we will let this distance not as r because sa board exam, the distance from the source yung normal na binibigay sa problem. So we will now be using the distance from the source. That would be our distance. It's actually the radius of the sphere, no? But we will refer it as distance from the source. So that would be power radiated divided by 4 pi d squared. This is area, no? This is watts. Pero kung naka-meter lahat yung ating distance dito, then that would be meter square. So yun na yung ating tinatawag na power density. So madali lang ma-memorize yung power formula na yan, no? It's just the power radiated tapos divide natin sa area ng sphere, which is 4 pi d squared, in which the d is actually the radius of the sphere, no? This is not the diameter, this is the distance from the source. Now, kung alam na natin yung formula ng power density, wala na, madali na lang hanapin yung electric field at saka magnetic field strength. That would be related na lang sa power formula natin sa Ohm's law, no? Or sa electricity. So the power density is equal to P rad over 4 pi d squared. And alam natin na meron tayong mga power formulas na to sa electricity. we have v squared over r, we have I squared r. Then we can simply convert this v into e. Pwede natin i-relate yung v into e, yung r into z, tapos yung p into power density, and I into h, and r into z, and p into power density. Just like this. So ito, yung format remains the same. So yung mga values na yung pinalitan natin, yung pang electricity na value, ginawa natin pang electromag na value. So the power density, the power becomes power density, the V becomes the E, and the R becomes the ZO. Same as here sa ilalim, the P becomes power density, the I becomes the H, and the R becomes the ZO. And once alam na natin yan, wala na, napakadali na lang mag-derive ng formula dito. So for example, electric field strength. So in your electric field strength, napakadali lang because i-relate lang natin yung power density. Doon tayo magsisimula sa power density. So halimbawa, power density is equal to P rad over 4 pi d squared. Alam din naman natin na yung power density na yan is equal din sa E squared over ZO. So pwede natin i-equate yung dalawa, no? E squared over ZO. But we also know that in free space, this ZO has a value. No? It is actually 377 ohms. So we will just bring that into our equation. So this will now become your equation. P rad is equal to 4 pi d squared, E squared equal to E squared over 377. So this is now your formula. You don't need to simplify it anymore. No? If ibibigay yung P rad sa problem, ibibigay yung distance sa problem, then you can now solve your E. You can even use your shift solve na lang sa calculator. Wala na yung problema actually. So kaya nga, you don't need to simplify this. Pag meron ka nito, okay na yan. Ibibigay yung electric field strength, ibibigay yung distance, then solve for the power radiated. You can still solve using this equation. So no need to simplify this. Okay na yung equation na yan. So kung alam na natin kung paano kinuha yung electric field strength, then wala nang problema sa magnetic field strength. So si magnetic field strength, magsisimula pa rin tayo sa power density P rad over 4 pi d squared, but instead na E squared over ZO, gawin na natin H squared times ZO. So by multiplying it to magnetic field strength squared times ZO and letting this ZO equal to 377 ohms pa rin, then we have now the formula for the magnetic field strength. No need to simplify. Huwag mo nang i-simplify yan. Bibigyan ka ng P rad, bibigyan ka ng distance, you can get your H. You can just use your shift solve. So napakadali lang talaga ng electric field strength and magnetic field strength na equations as long as alam mo yung power density. And hindi man mahirap yung power density kasi isipin mo lang spherical yung wavefront mo. So ibig sabihin, it's just the power radiated per area. And what is the area of the sphere? 4 pi d squared. So yun na yung power density natin. So not really a big problem. So madali nating maalala yan pagdating sa board exam. Okay, now let's describe the difference between attenuation and absorption. So ano ba yung kaibahan ng attenuation and absorption? Now, in wave propagation, napaka-importante na maintindihan at ma-distinguish natin yung attenuation at yung absorption. Pag sinabi mong attenuation, it is the reduction of the power density dahil sa may pagka-spread ng inyong wave. So, with distance. So, ibig sabihin, yung example natin kanina, nagbago yung power density dahil may distance ka from the point source and your rays are spreading as the distance progress. So, kumbaga parang ganito siya, no? So I have a point source, I have a source, and I have a certain distance. So habang papalayo yung ating ray sa ating point source, lumalaki yung distansya na yan. No? So nagsispread yung ating waves. Kaya nga makikita natin na dito sa distance na to, meron pa tayong 3 rays per area. Pero pagdating sa mas malayong distance na to, meron na lang tayong 1 ray of the area. So yung reduction of this power density dahil sa pag-spread ng inyong wave is what we call attenuation. So yun yung tinatawag na attenuation. So this attenuation, itong pag-spread na to, tandaan lang natin parate that this can happen in free space and this can also happen in non-free space. So whether free space yung medium mo or non-free space yung medium mo, these rays from your source will always spread from the source with distance. So habang lumalayo yung distance, lalong nagsispread sila. Kaya nga power density can be referred as inverse square law. No? Ibig sabihin, it is inversely related to the square of the distance. No? Power density is equal to your P rad divided by 4 pi d squared. So see, inversely related sa square sa distance. That is an inverse square law. So that is what is attenuation. So again, attenuation can happen either in free space or non-free space. Pero pag sasabihin mong absorption, from the word absorption pa lang, it can never happen in free space. Why? Because nga walang mag-absorb ng energy sa free space. It's a free space. So kaya nga this absorption is the power density reduction pa rin, but in a non-free space medium. So yun yung pinaka-importante dyan. So in a non-free space, attenuation can happen, absorption can happen. But in free space, only attenuation can happen and absorption won't happen. Because nga absorption is the transfer of energy from your ray towards the particles na mababangga niya doon sa atmosphere or any non-free space medium. So kaya nga pagpasok niya diyan, mababawasan na. So paglagay dito, paglabas ng signal dito, it's a weaker signal. Divided by the area, mas lalong mababa yung power mo per area. So yun na yung tinatawag na absorption. So electromagnetic wave energy is transferred from the wave to the atoms and molecules of the atmosphere. So na-absorb siya kumbaga. So ibig sabihin, habang madami yung particles or molecules ng atmosphere, lalong mas prone ka sa absorption. So this absorption actually depends on a parameter ng wave natin, which is the frequency. So absorption of radio waves in the atmosphere or by the atmosphere depends not on distance but only in frequency. So doon nakadepende yung absorption natin. Okay, so again, absorption happens only in non-free space medium, whereas attenuation can happen both in non-free space or free space medium. Okay, so now let's move on to the optical characteristics of electromagnetic waves. Magsisimula tayo sa refraction or bending of your light ray. So the reason why we are talking about these optical properties is that para ma-appreciate natin sila, because this refraction, this reflection, diffraction is nakikita talaga natin to with the light na makikita nating mga mata. So we can conclude then na if ever mangyayari ito sa light, then it could also happen to electromagnetic waves such as kilohertz, megahertz, and gigahertz na hindi natin nakikita. So refraction basically is the bending lang, the bending of your ray as it passes from a medium with one density to another medium with a different density. Ibig sabihin, there will be no bending of these rays if walang pagbabago din naman sa density ng inyong material. So bending lang talaga yan basta refraction. And this is the law that governs refraction, the Snell's law na popular. So N1 sin theta 1 is equal to N2 sin theta 2, in which the theta 1 is the incident angle, ayan, and theta 2 is the angle of refraction. Itong N yan at saka N na yan, ito yung tinatawag nating refractive index or index of refraction. It's actually a ratio of velocities. So ano ba yung index of refraction? So it is the ratio of the velocity of the electromagnetic wave na nagta-travel sa free space to the velocity of that the same wave na nagta-travel sa different medium. So kung iisipin natin, it's basically just the C over the VP. So yun yung refractive index mo, the C over the VP. This is the speed of light and this is the speed of that signal in a different material. In which parang familiar yung C over VP because meron tayong formula dati na VP over C. So ano yung VP over C na formula? That was a velocity factor formula in our transmission line topic. So kaya nga, from here na C, refractive index is C over VP, yung reciprocal pala niya is velocity factor, which is VP over C, then we can simply say na 1 over the velocity factor is actually the refractive index. Or we can also say na 1 over the refractive index is the velocity factor. So these two are obviously napaka-related sila. So one is less than 1, which is the velocity factor, and the other will always be greater than 1, which is the refractive index. Okay, so tingnan natin how this refraction really works. So for example, I have two materials. We have N1 and N2, and let's say we have an incident ray na tatama dito, and in order to get the angle of refraction and angle of reflection and critical angle and the rest of the other angles like incident angle, we need to draw the normal line. So a normal line is just an imaginary line drawn perpendicularly to the surface, to the interface mo. So kung halimbawa, yun na yung normal line, so yung angle na mabubuo from your ray into your normal line, yun na yung tatawagin natin na incident angle. So yun ang incident angle. Now let's determine if ano yung condition ng N1 tsaka N2 for the refracted rays dito sa kabilang material. So for example, this ray passes through the interface and goes to the other material, but it has no bending at all, no? It just flow in a straight line. Ano ba yung condition ng N1 kumpara kay N2 dito, no? So what is the condition of N1 with respect to N2 if walang bending of the ray? So the answer there is equal. So kaya nga sabi kanina, if your ray or light, for example, will only flow in a material without changing the density, then there will be no refraction actually. So this is a proof na wala talagang refraction pag parehong materials lang. But what if your ray bends towards the normal, no? So from this point of no bending, it actually bends na papunta sa normal line natin. So ano naman yung relationship ni N1 and N2 if that will happen? So if that happens, the relationship there is lesser. So if N1 is lesser than the N2, then it will bend papunta kay normal. But it could also bend papunta dito, away from the normal, di ba? So this is bending now away from the normal. So if your ray bends away from the normal, ano naman kaya yung condition ng N1 kumpara kay N2? So wala nang iba kundi greater na yan. So if N1 is greater than N2, that's the time na your ray will be bending away from normal. So if I will increase my incident angle dito, this refracted ray at N1 greater than N2 will actually increase until it lies flat into this interface. In short, the angle of refraction is now 90. So by the way, sa kanina na N1 less than N2, ito yung angle of refraction mo. So dito naman sa N1 greater than N2, ito naman yung angle of refraction mo. So you always take the angle of refraction or incident angle or kahit anong angle from the normal line. So this is now a 90 degrees angle into this line flat on your interface. Now what do you call this incident angle if it generates an angle of refraction equivalent to 90 degrees? So yung tawag natin dyan is critical angle. So yun na yung tinatawag na critical angle. So this incident angle now is papalitan na natin ng critical angle. Bakit? Because nga yung kanyang refraction is already 90 degrees. So as long as your refraction angle is not yet 90 degrees, then that incident will remain as incident. But the moment that incident reaches an angle of refraction equal to 90 degrees, then that incident angle can now be referred as the critical angle. So it's an angle of incidence that creates an angle of refraction equal to 90 degrees. So there actually is a formula for the critical angle. No? So may formula para mahanap yung critical angle, but I don't really recommend na gamitin mo yun. So what is gagamitin lang natin is the concept plus the Snell's law. Now we know that in Snell's law, it is just N1 sine incident angle equal to N2 sine of angle of refraction. And we know that in a critical angle concept, this theta here is actually 90 degrees, di ba? And this incident angle, if the refraction angle is 90 degrees, is now referred as the critical. So I will just erase this and I will replace this with critical. Then I could use my calculator shift solve because sine of 90 is obviously equal to 1. So that now leaves me with this equation. So ito na lang yung gagamitin ko. No? I will not simplify this no more. Hindi ko na i-simplify yan. Yan na yung equation ko. At least nalaman ko na pag 90 degrees yung refraction ko, critical angle na yung tawag dito. So shift solve ko na lang. N1 lagay ko, N2 ilagay ko. Tapos ito, sin 90, pwede kong isulat. Pwede ko rin i-assume na 1 na lang yan. Then i-shift solve ko na lang. Then the critical angle will come out. So that is much easier kumpara sa mag-memorize ka pa ng ibang formula. No? So at least kung nakaganito lang yung equation mo, madali mo na lang siyang i-shift solve. No? And mas madali siyang maalala din. No? Because it's not somehow memorizing a new formula. It's somehow parang nag-derive ka lang sa main formula. Diyan dagan mo lang ng concept. So that would be the critical angle. So for example, this is already your critical angle. Pero what if nagkaroon pa tayo ng isa pang incident angle which actually is laki na, no? Kumpara sa critical angle mo. No? So if that would be my new incident angle, from this critical angle, lumaki pa yung incident natin. No? Imagine, from this critical angle, we already had 90 degrees na angle of refraction, di ba? Nandito na yung ray natin at this particular critical angle. So ngayon, pinalaki pa natin yung ating angle of incident than the critical angle. So what do you think will happen to this 90 degrees? Will it go back to the normal or will it now just extend pa sa 90 degrees? So what really will happen here is that it will now go to this first medium mo. So nagsimula ka sa first medium, nag-project ka sa first medium, bumalik ka sa first medium pa rin. No? So kumbaga, ano na yung tawag nito? Ito na yung tinatawag natin na reflection. So ibig sabihin pala, pag reflection, yung incident angle mo is already greater than the critical. So if your incident angle is not yet greater than the critical, or if your incident angle is just the critical, then it will only have 90 degrees refraction. But the moment it goes beyond the critical, it will now go to reflection, in which in reflection, whatever is your incident angle, that becomes now your angle of reflection. So if this is your incident angle, equal na yan sa angle of reflection. So that would now be in reflection. The incident angle is equal to the angle of reflection. So that is observed na. Basta't reflection na tayo. But we cannot observe this in refraction. We cannot say in the refraction that angle of incident is equal always angle of refraction. So hindi po pwede yan. No? We can only see this as say this angle of incident equal to the angle of reflection when it already is at the reflection. So yun yung tinatawag nating reflection. So kung baga si reflection is effect talaga siya ng refraction. No? So from refraction, nagiging reflection siya. No? Okay, so now let's continue with the parameters ng reflection. Ano ba yung mga bagay na nakakapag-reflect talaga? No? So reflection is, as we know, the bouncing of radio waves. No? So yun yung reflection, the bouncing of radio waves. And all metallic objects has a capacity na makapag-reflect ng signals natin. Pero hindi lahat ng metallic na bagay is makapag-reflect naman ng 100% na reflection. So even though all metals will reflect your electromagnetic energy, but it doesn't mean na 100% yung ma-reflect nila. No? And it also depends on the size of the metallic surface. So kung isipin natin, most reflections of course, if the metallic object is at least lambda over 2 at the frequency of operation lang. No? So if masyadong maliit yung metallic object mo, hindi rin siya makakapag-reflect ng radio waves mo. Kaya nga nakadepende yung pag-reflect na to sa frequency mo at the same time sa laki ng metallic object natin. And for metallic objects to really reflect 100%, pwede naman, but that is only theoretical. No? If you can actually provide a perfect conductor. So only a perfect conductor would cause a total reflection talaga ng signals natin. But it doesn't mean that only metallic objects can reflect. So some partial conductive materials can also reflect, such as the ground or the bodies of water. No? So they could also reflect our radio waves. Kaya nga, they are much of a consideration also for our microwave links. Halimbawa, if yung terrain na dinadaanan is mountainous area or di kaya mayroong bodies of water, because it could really affect our propagation. So it also produced by other partially conductive surfaces such as nga the ground or yung earth natin at saka bodies of water. So that would be put into consideration pag nagpa-plan ka ng nagbabudget ka ng link sa inyong mga wave propagation such as microwave. So now let's move on to another property known as the diffraction. So pag refraction is the bending and the reflection is the bouncing, ito naman si diffraction is the scattering, or pwede rin natin sabihin bending, pero hindi dahil sa may pagbabago ng density, but because tumama siya sa gilid or edge ng isang object. So it is a phenomenon whereby waves traveling a straight path bend or scatter around the edge of an obstacle. Pag nag-bend ka dahil sa pagbabago ng density, refraction yun. Kung nag-bend ka dahil sa tumama ka sa gilid ng isang object, then that could be referred as diffraction. So a very common phenomenon that you can find early in the morning or maybe papalubog na yung araw is yung nandito siya sa edge ng heel mo na makikita mo nagsascatter yung light na ganyan. No? So that really is an evidence of diffraction. So ibig sabihin, if light could be diffracted, then so as the kilohertz, the megahertz, and the gigahertz. So kaya nga in our analysis, we also consider this diffracted rays during the transmission and reception of our signals. So by the way, yung diffraction na to is naka-pattern talaga sa principle ng ni Eugene, Eugene's principle. Sabi ng Eugene's principle, each point on a spherical wavefront may be considered as the source of a secondary spherical wavefront. So para mas maintindihan natin yan, let's have an example. So meron tayong source dito, meron tayong building halimbawa dito. Tapos our receiver is somewhere here. Without diffraction, hindi talaga makaka-receive ng signal yung receiver na to. Kasi without diffraction, but in reality, there will always be diffraction. So when this ray hits this object, yung part na yan, wala talagang, kung walang diffraction, walang signal yan. No? But if ever may diffraction, which is nandyan naman talaga yung diffraction, if may diffraction na, once the signal hits the edge, it will create a secondary wave front like this. And so as on this corner here, it will create secondary wavefront here, creating signals towards your particular receiver. So in short, there is only this particular area na wala talagang nare-receive na signal behind this obstacle. Yun na yung tatawagin natin na shadow zone. So hindi porket nasa likod ka, shadow zone na yan lahat. So kasi meron pang tinatamaan ng signal natin dahil sa diffraction. So an area following an obstacle that does not receive a wave with diffraction can be referred now as the shadow zone. So that is what we term as shadow zone, and the principle with that is obviously by diffraction. Okay, so now let's move on to electromagnetic wave propagation na, yung ground wave, sky wave, and your space wave.